and welcome back to Rush Roundtable. On our way at last. It's only been a few months, but we are finally discussing Clockwork Angels, and starting with Caravan. Again, as I said, this is episode 282. I am your host, Paul, and with me tonight, thankfully, we've got David, Shayne, Rob, and Alex. So thank them in advance for making this episode happen. Let's get the housekeeping out of the way. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Looks like that. If you really like what you're seeing, enjoy our content, you can send us a tip on Ko-fi at the address you see on your screen. We, in the time it's been from Snakes and Arrows to now, are now on Facebook. So check us out there too. And as always, grab our merch. And you can be as cool as we are. Do not forget to subscribe to Rush Lyrics on Instagram.
Low bar, man. Low bar.
Some wacky reason you want to join us, this is the way to do it. And this is also the first song roundtable we've had on StreamYard. So all technical flaws will come back to this guy. So that being said, yeah.
No, I was just hoping that I had a 50-50 chance.
We've lost at least half the audience by now, which is awesome. Okay, Clockwork Angels, gentlemen, came out June 12th, 2012. And there's lots to say about this. I do have an excerpt I wanted to read from Time Machine, The Future as It Ought to Have Been, that Neil wrote for the Time Machine tour book. We definitely wanted to work on something new and talked about just writing and recording a couple of songs. We could follow the wishes of our manager, Ray Daniels, and do a little touring in 2010 as well. Geddy brought up a project that has long appealed to him, collecting all of our instrumentals into one album and perhaps writing a new one to go with them. Maybe something a little more extended, he said, and my ears pricked up. Years back, we had cloned our share of long works, lyrical concepts, and instrumentals, always remembering the subtitle of La Villa Strangiato in 1978, An Exercise in Self-Indulgence. But lately, we had tended to make our own songs, if not concise, at least more compressed. So that, for example, an instrumental like The Main Monkey Business on Snakes and Arrows was enormously complex, but worked through its movements in 6 minutes instead of 9 or 10. At that suggestion, wheels started turning in my head. Now that we were talking about doing something a little more ambitious musically, I wondered if it wasn't time to think that way in terms of lyrics and concepts too. The chorus line in Caravan seemed apt. I can't stop thinking big. I told the guys about an idea for a fictional world that had interested me lately, thinking it would make a great setting, maybe for a suite of songs that told a story. A genre of science fiction pioneered by certain authors, including my friend Kevin J. Anderson, had come to be called steampunk, seen as a reaction against the cyberpunk futurists with their scenarios of dehumanized, alienated, dystopian societies. Our own previous excursions into the future, 2112 and Red Barchetta, had been set in that darker kind of imagining for dramatic and allegorical effect. But I was thinking of steampunk's definition as the future as it ought to have been, or the future as seen from the past, as imagined by Jules Verne, for example, in 1866, when he was writing 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So there's a little bit more, but we're going to stick with that. So that is where the whole thing started. Your first thoughts when you heard Caravan on Time Machine, or if you were lucky enough to have seen it live, guys?
Assault on Time Machine was blown away. It was, as every Rush album, I think I've said this before on here on various roundtables, every Rush album sounds different than all the other Rush albums, and they all sound like Rush. So when they debuted those two songs, Caravan and BU2B, which we'll be talking about next time, I was already just itching for what else they were going to do and how the album would turn out. But Caravan was mind blowing, and of course later when you learn the story and you know what the Caravan is and everything, it gives you that sense of it's moving down the tracks pretty fast.
Yeah, I was blown away too. The first time I heard it, that the ominous beginning, and then it rocks, and it's got a lot of instrumental parts in it, good long solo, which you don't get a lot of, or hadn't got a lot of in a long time. And then just that line, I can't stop thinking big. I've always been someone who thought big, and so I just I just really identified and still identify with Caravan.
Yeah, I wound up downloading it. I checked actually a hard drive just to see what the information was on the tracks, and I downloaded it June 5th of 2010 because that was like the offering on iTunes or something like that. And it's interesting to think of like the upcoming tour for next year. That the thing for me was always the new album coming out. And I think the thing for a lot of people who might be watching this was always awaiting that new album coming out. And especially, you go way back and get the, pre-internet days. It's sort of, oh, there's going to be a new Rush album, and you're listening to the radio, or you're checking the locations, record stores and whatnot that were, associated maybe with the radio and whatnot. But yeah, just that sort of, hey, well, here's two songs that are pretty heavy and going to rock you hard, and you're going to need to get this new album in 2 years. It's interesting to think that it's like, hey, here it is 2 years early. Just saying.
Yeah, I think it was a smart way to do it too, just putting out those two songs ahead of time, and then of course the subsequent album. I just remember just the bigness of the sound of it. I mean, not to be punny about the lyrical content, but it just sounded really had a large sound to it. And then of course the flavoring of the song, the style of the song was like this return back to the proggy era, which I was very excited about. So I think that was a really smart strategic move, even though they were, a little further away from the full project. But I think that was a really prudent move on their end. I think to get, like Alex just said, to kind of get you excited about like, hey, this new Rush stuff coming out. And I don't really recall when I actually first heard it. It might have been the radio, but yeah, I was locked right in when I heard that song, and just the opening of that. They're very, like, I think Dave said it and Shayne said it, that ominous opening, with the bell, and then you hear the clanging of like the steamliner type of sound idea. So without knowing the story beforehand, just like this, the actual start of the song was something a little different than I wasn't really used to. But you didn't know it was Rush when you first heard it. Like, what the hell is this? Then it kicks in, and then that guitar. Everybody's in at the same time. It's just that large sound was like, what is this? I had no idea. And then Geddy started singing, like, okay, it's a Rush song. I had no idea. So it was a very big surprise, long story long, when I first heard that song. With what was in it, how it was presented, the timing of it was all a big surprise. I wasn't expecting an album from them at that point. So coming. So.
And every song begins with a little bit of a prologue, which don't worry if you can't read it from this far distance, because we're going to put it up on screen, and Shayne is going to be nice enough to read it.
It seems like a lifetime ago, which of course it was. All that and more. For a boy, life on the farm was idyllic, but for the young man I became, that very peace and predictability were stifling, unbearable. I had big dreams and needed a big place to explore them, the whole wide world. Near our village of Barrel Arbor, the steamliners touched down and traveled on rails along the winding Pinion River toward Crown City. Watching them pass in the night, how I prayed to get away. None of it seemed right to me.
Great way to set things up. And I made us small again. So, David, if you can work magic and put us back, make us right
We're all
size.
thinking big.
Thinking big, right? Thank
It's
you.
trying to contain us. You can't contain us, StreamYard.
That prologue there, aside from the idea of it linking into other Rush songs, I'm sure we could think of things like Middletown Dreams and The Analog Kid and Circumstances. Obviously, Subdivisions, as far as being drawn to that city, not unlike a moth. So,
Absolutely.
I want to talk a little bit about the book. Of course, Kevin J. Anderson and Neil Peart, Clockwork Angels. I was thinking about, I don't want to give any spoilers, but if you haven't read the book yet, tough. There can be some spoilers.
There's going to be
a while.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way. There are going to be spoilers for the book on every Clockwork Angels roundtable.
Yeah.
Well,
So the main character, the protagonist, is Owen Hardy. And in my view, Owen is Neil. Okay. The story of Neil's life has been wanting to get away and explore the world, right? He wanted to get away, so he went to England, and of course then there were circumstances, and it was rough and difficult. That's what happened to Owen. in the story. He's in Beryl Arbor. Neil grew up in St. Catharines. Owen worked for his father in the apple orchards in his father's business. Neil worked for his dad in the farm equipment business. And then, they both, because they couldn't stop thinking big, they wanted to get away. And then one other little spoiler, what happens in this song, in the story, is that Owen is going to go out to meet this girl that he loves, who for whatever reason doesn't show, we're never told. And he ends up on the caravan heading to Crown City. The anarchist actually had something to do with engineering that whole thing, which Owen didn't know, the anarchist at the time, or what that meant. But what Geddy sings about, the lyrics that Neil wrote, is about that journey from little Beryl Arbor to big Crown City. And Beryl Arbor is all that Owen had ever known up to that point. So it's a big thing, for him. And to watch, the stars winking through the, canvas hole, all that. It's and it seems to me Neil kind of wrote a different version of his own life as a young man.
I would agree.
And quite frankly, when it comes to the spoiler thing, sometimes it could be irritating as all get out. Sometimes it could just be like, all right, well, you can still enjoy the ride by just grabbing the book and sitting down and reading it and just seeing what happens in the specificity of the events.
Yeah, we took 5 times. Yeah, we put one of these out every week, and we're sure not going to do the entire album all the way through. So do not worry, you will have time. Start reading the book now.
That's true.
Yeah. Or you can order from Kevin J. Anderson, Wordfire Press. You can order the audiobook.
Got it too.
It was read by Neil, so you get to hear that wonderful voice reading you a story.
Just watch it if you're driving. He's really relaxing.
Very relaxing. Yeah.
It's an MP3. I have a car old enough that still has a CD player in it, so I don't know how that would work. Maybe it's available in other formats.
I got it through Audible. Yes.
Yeah.
Audible.
I have the same MP3 disc that David has, and I wound up just ripping it into because I have an old laptop with an optical drive, and just put it on a flash drive that I have on my dash. So it's there.
Read it, listen to it.
What's interesting about it for me is on my previous Rush podcast, I wanted to do all of the Clockwork Angels album before reading it, and then do it again after reading it, just to get the 2 different impressions of the song. But of course, neither of those guys could read, so that didn't happen. but now I have a really hard time. The song really sets up the album. Of course, you don't know that. I mean, the novel, you don't know that until you've read it, but it really sets it up so well. I have a hard time thinking of it in terms of just the song.
That's why we're going to be
about the whole
show. Points. Yes, these roundtables, in my opinion, would not be complete without covering book topics. So we have decreed that is the way we're going to be doing this.
And although I was given the book, I think probably at Christmas in 2012, I didn't read it for 10 years. It was one of the many books that would sit on the shelf, and other things pop up. And, I should read this. And I began maybe twice. And then I think it was probably in 22 or maybe 23, I don't know, that I just sat down and read it. So I had a good decade of listening to this album as it is, as an album, knowing a book exists, not knowing the story. And it obviously attracts. You don't have to read the book to listen to or to get the lyrics. Basically, you can, as Neil always wanted people to do, you can make of them what you want.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's a tighter connection when you read the book and then listen to the record. Because I had the same story as Alex. I had the album for a long time, and I didn't really get into the record right away. I don't know why. Just one of those things. I wasn't like rotating the album and listening to it every day. But when I read the book, I just felt more of a bond to the album. So I think it's an important point that you guys made about not hearing it or hearing the album for a while without reading it and then reading it. So I think it's a tighter connection if you read the book and then go back to listen to the record. I think it's a really...
Yeah, for me, it was hearing the record first, then the book came out, reading the book, and then it's like, oh, that's what's going on in that song and this and that. But then when you go back and listen to the record, having read the book, it kind of fills out the songs a little bit more because you have a bigger picture of what's going on. And now you say, David, I don't like to read and I don't like to listen to people read. What should I do? Well, you get the graphic novel.
Got that too.
Yeah,
It is.
it's so cool.
Now,
get the whole story.
Now, David? What do you think about that? Because a friend of mine bought that a couple of years ago and then gave it to me because he said he didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And and again, that's something that landed on a pile of books, and I haven't looked through the graphic novel because I read the book by that time. Because I was telling him, "Oh, it's a great story. You got to read the book," and he was like, "Oh, I don't like this graphic novel." So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's preference. I prefer reading the book, but I like graphic novels, and it follows the book perfectly as far as the sequence of events and stories, and you're going to see it a little bit differently. You may or may not like the artwork. I thought it was kind of cool. So yeah, whatever works for you, I guess, is what you should do.
All right, let's jump on the song and we'll start peppering in book references, lyrical references as we go along. We have an intro. We have the train bells going off for the steamliner as it's coming in. And as I had asked before we started, I am not going to go, and then this is the part that goes, da-na-na-na-na-na. So Alex, Rob, whoever wants to start us off with a musical intro, you gentlemen are gifted where I'm not.
It's pretty slow tempo, which allows for a lot of those 16th notes to come in. So it seems like by that token, I feel like the slow tempo, like 65 or 66, it's kind of allowing a lot of room for them to play with notes, obviously. And in the beginning, you have that just a lot of it's the riff is built on chromaticism that usually we didn't see as much of. I mean, not to say that Lifeson didn't do it here and there, but it's pretty much the riff is basically a jazz major scale. It's which I know is everyone's thinking that I know, but it's the sort of thing where it's he's focusing on E. E flat D, and then basically B flat A. I mean, it's he's playing with that tonality quite a bit, and don't even get me started on the chorus because I'll wait until we're on the chorus to say something about it. but I also like the spacing of the notes where you have that measure of that E flat D, B flat A, and then after 4 measures they just bring it in closer. Not unlike, say, the end of 21st Century Schizoid Man, where you have that kind of little bit of an increase to the the big ending. This kind of increases as if, oh, there's a train in the different distance. It's coming. Now it's really here. Now I might need to jump on that thing for the second half of the intro where the power chords really materialize and the band's in, and now it's really punchy and that's some anarchy looking dude threw you on a train. Not literally, of course. Read the book. Just read the book. I'm gonna step off on my speech and let anyone else say stuff because this isn't my show.
Yeah, the whole descending line is well, the chromaticism is descending, right? So with the book, you have the steamliners coming down to beat the track. So I don't want to spoil it either, but there's a motion that's happening with the music, as Al just pointed out, with the chromaticism, but everything descends rather than ascending on certain songs. So that kind of gives you the illusion of, if you've read the book, of what's happening in the sky and what's approaching the tracks. So that's kind of a nice preamble, I guess, or for lack of a better word, it's setting everything up, right? And then I mentioned before, the activity starts to increase where things are closing in together. The notes are getting closer together. So there comes your caravan, So it's a really nice setup to the tune, and what's going to be presented through the whole record. I mean, this is a big, perfectly placed, song on the record. The sequencing is right on the money. So it's a good start.
And for those of you who are lucky enough to have seen the Clockwork Angels tour or seen it on Blu-ray, which is what I had to do because I did not go to this concert, as I famously lamented before. It is my biggest Rush regret in life, is that. But this is the first that we hear of the Clockwork String Ensemble, please. So excellent intro to that on that live version. I want to throw that out too. So string section that toured with them for this entire full album tour. Without further ado, I'm going to get in lyrics. You guys good with that? All right. So, in a world lit only by fire, a long train of flares under piercing stars, I stand watching the steamliners roll by. And as an opening verse, I do want to throw out the one literary reference that jumped out immediately was "in a world lit only by fire." Not only is it incredibly descriptive and it gives you that steampunk feel, but Neil actually borrowed that title from a book by William Manchester, which is basically a history of the Middle Ages in Europe. So there's kind of that typical Neil lyrical joke there. It's an unenlightened time. So, but it's also setting it descriptively in the steampunk. Takes us to the pre-chorus. The caravan thunders onward to the distant dream of the city. The caravan carries me onward on my way at last, on my way at last. Gentlemen.
I like the piercing stars. I've never seen a star metaphor like piercing stars. And to me, it's like he wants to do this thing. He wants to leave the boredom of Barrel Arbor or the adventure and the enlightenment of Crown City, but he knows somebody's watching his every move. I think the piercing stars is that eye in the sky, or he doesn't know. I guess maybe it's the watchmaker watching, but somebody is watching.
There's at least two people. If you've read the book, there are at least two people who are working their magic over on him, between the watchmaker and the anarchist, both take an interest in young Owen. But yes,
strings being pulled.
And a fun thing about the book is how many times you find Rush lyrics, right, thrown in there. It's just hysterical. But anyway, piercing stars, as you were saying that, Shayne, I thought, the stars look down, because when when you're in Barrel Arbor and you want to escape to the distant dream of the city, the stars give you a sense of, the star. You're just here, but the stars are over it all, and it speaks of a world far away that you wonder about, you're curious about, you're eager, you have that youthful eagerness to get there. So yeah, piercing stars.
I thought of it as almost like a primitive thing where, if the world's lit by fire, you don't have street lamps like you would have in the subdivisions, right? You can't see the stars because you have all the light pollution. So I had that in my brain when I first heard this. I'm like, okay, because Owen was on that hill in Barrel Arbor looking at the stars. And Owen understood, like, what's your big fascination with the stars? You're always stargazing, and not being grounded and being foolish and all that kind of thing. But that's what he was into. But I always thought of that as like a thing of like, almost like Neil touching on the environmentalism tone a little bit, with like seeing the full sky without all this light pollution going on. So that's my initial quick reaction when I first heard that line. So
it's also a bit of a callback to, in subdivisions, people like myself who grew up in the far unlit unknown, not in a city, not in a subdivision, but a far unlit unknown. And the idea of, boy lies in the grass, basically staring at the sky. It obviously marked all of Neil's life.
I was going to say, for a swan song, they really do make a lot of references to pulling from all these
to their career.
Yeah,
very
much so.
I think with the lines too, he's tricked into getting on the train, and I think those lines, the caravan thunders onward, and then the caravan carries me onward. I don't think he had to be tricked. I think he wanted to be tricked because he knew he didn't. He wanted to do it. He didn't have permission, so he doesn't want to get in trouble. So I think being tricked into it, and it doesn't say this, but it's just what I think. He wanted to be tricked, and it was convenient for him to be led onto the train against his will, so that he could go. But he hasn't really done anything wrong. He was tricked into it.
Well, back to more story setup from the novel, but he's at this point he's already met the peddler who. This is not a spoiler if you've even read the note, let alone in the album or the CD, let alone the novel. But the peddler shows up, and it's the watchmaker in disguise asking, is there anything you need? What do you lack?
What do you lack?
Yes, that line will come up musically later in the album, but in the story, it comes up very early, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So they're already vying for him. So the anarchist is actually the second person to reach out to him. So
and he got him in a vulnerable moment when, his love interest didn't show.
Livonia,
something like that.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, some of the things that you guys are also saying too made me think of, you know, like in say going back to Bugs Bunny or Tom and Jerry cartoons, where the idea is that the animators would absolutely put the devil and the angel on each shoulder. And the idea that you have that dichotomy, you have that battle, you have that hemisphere of are you going to be alongside the watchmaker, doing the right thing and living maybe a boring life, get lost, in ticking traps. I'm just going to be talking in all lyrics tonight, apparently. Or are you going to recognize
predestined or total free will? No gray area.
Yeah,
which is the whole heart of everything.
Right, recognize that you're only immortal for a limited time and get out there and rock and roll the bones. You're going to have to just deal with this. Paul will just mute me if it gets
awesome.
bad.
You're on tonight. Yeah. Well, it's, going way ahead, which one is Owen going to pick, right? And of course, we'll see when all that you can do is wish them well near the end, he does something different. Sometimes it's not either or both and. Sometimes it's something else entirely. And I think to correct myself, it's Lavinia with an I, not
thank you.
No.
Well, and I think it's funny that we all suddenly turn very animated. No, I'm not going for the anime joke there. We all get very animated talking about this small, predestined little, prefab made world. And what is he doing? Oh, I can't stop. We're on the chorus. I can't stop thinking big. 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 We're all right there with him, is my point. Mm-hmm. So, and musically, someone much more learned than I can speak to this, but talk about kicking in a chorus. So you thought it was already thundering and, the steamliner's coming in and all that, but then time stops and then bam, and it kicks in the chorus. So musically, what does that give us?
Major key, and it's a major key, and I think it's either E or F major. I'm not sure what key it's in, but it's.
You mean the chorus or the pre-chorus, or what are we talking about now?
Yes, I'm thinking
chorus.
Yeah.
I mean the pre-chorus is built on the riff and the verse, but he throws in more B flats in areas that would be more of a shock point, and then for the chorus, it's it's an F sus 4. Yeah, it's just a high F sus 4 for what Lifeson plays. But Geddy's notes, Geddy actually hits that with 16ths playing A flat, B flat, A C, A flat, B flat, F. So basically Lifeson's just static on it for a few measures on that F sus 4 high up. And Geddy's actually really moving the root around until he lands on F for 2 measures, or maybe not 2 measures. I think, I don't know, but so
the tempo of the chorus when he's singing, "I Can't Stop Thinking Big," to me evokes kind of like all of a sudden you're in this world of wonder. Right?
Yes,
because you're going fast, but then it kind of slows down into the tempo that it's in, and wow, I can't stop thinking big.
Yep. It'd be hard pressed for anyone to not feel that grand. Almost said design, didn't mean to, but no, just that epic. Like, you're in this now. There's no turning back.
Yeah.
So taking us to the next verse, on a road lit only by fire, going, and again, that isolation feeling, going where I want instead of where I should, I peer out at the passing shadows, carried through the night into the city where a young man has a chance of making good, a chance to break from the past. So again, all these themes we've been discussing all along, where he has to get out of there. I mean, that's reminiscent of how many songs?
But that chromaticism comes back in from the beginning, but it's ascending now. So it's like in the beginning you had this retrograde thing, right? So it's kind of everything's going down and climbing downwards by half steps, and then this one goes a little snippet of just that little bit that connects out of the chorus into this verse, has a little bit of upward movement. So that's a interesting connecting fiber to this next part.
Yeah, that's I was thinking that the break, because what Rob's talking about is it's like this the first time going into the first verse he only played 5 or 6 notes. This time around he's basically played about double the amount, so they're just kind of building on it. But
in this verse too, in the beginning when he's stuck in Barrel Arbor, the stars were piercing, as Shayne pointed out. But now that he's on the Caravan and he's moving forward, he can't stop thinking big. The stars are winking through the canvas hood. So I don't know if that was intentional or if I'm reading something into that. But
well, you're 2 lines ahead of where we are, but that's a good way to get there. The pre-chorus says, the Caravan onward.
Totally intentional.
Stars winking through the canvas hood, the Caravan thunders onward, on my way at last, on my way at last. So we are now on our way. And yes, David, to your point, exactly.
Because as Donna's often said, Donna Halper, that, Neil uses words intentionally, right? So when you have stars in one verse and stars in another, you look for similarities or differences, but he seems to be saying something there, at least it seems to me.
Well, when they were piercing, oh, go ahead, Paul.
Just real quick, I put a pin in what you said because I don't want to lose that either. The one thing that we have, I think, on previous roundtables, not said often enough, and that came up a lot in my research for this, was remember Geddy manipulated the lyrics, edited the lyrics with Neil's absolute blessing and total working together on them to make them singable. So this is not like the gospel according to Neil as far as the way the lyrics are written out. These words are manipulated. So they are, the end result is what Geddy can sing in the frames of the song as Neil originally wrote them. And that they became the Rush song. So I want to make sure that thought doesn't get lost in all this.
That's good. Yeah, Neil considered Geddy as editor, and it's interesting you say that. I was just watching today some of the special features, bonus features on R30, and Neil was talking about, how the band works in their little democracy, and I believe that's where I saw that, where he said that, I write the lyrics, but the guys improve them. He didn't. He used the word. They improved them. And
yes.
So yeah, good point. Shayne's point.
Shayne.
Well, the winking and the piercing, I think, also they develop the character too, because when they're piercing, somebody's watching him. He's scared because he's doing something he shouldn't do. But winking, well, so let's get to the winking part, because he's peers out at passing shadows as he's breaking away from Barrel Arbor and breaking away from the past. I think those passing shadows are he feels like he's smarter just leaving the small town. He's smarter just being on his way to enlightenment. He's already smarter. And really, and he's right. I mean, like he says in the thing that I read, which you would think I remember since I read it, but none of it seemed right to me. And now that he's out there, he's like, right, none of it was right. I was correct all along. It wasn't right. And then between all that, there's so many of Neil's classic themes in the book, the knowledge versus ignorance and the free will versus determinism, because he thinks he's doing what he wants, but the whole time the strings are being pulled by the two others. And there's some order and chaos. We've got one of the devils. Since you said the angel and the devil, I think to me it's like two devils. One of the devils is trying to control everything. One of the devils is trying to create chaos everywhere. And then of course, adventure. It's a sense of adventure, and then the pursuit of happiness, which I'm waiting. I'm going to wait till later on in the album, later songs, before I get too much into the pursuit of happiness thing. But the last thing is the stars are winking through the canvas, because it's not that somebody's watching his every move now. Now they're in on it together. So they're all in on the heist. On
the mischievous wink.
Yeah. I think it's
and the speed for that matter too. They had time to pierce before, and now that he's on his way at last, now it's barely a wink. I think both are valid, but
what he's scared everything's going to seem like it's happening faster now that it's slowing down. It's like, how you doing? Can I take that?
Cut. That was bloody awful.
I just wanted to drop. That was all.
It wasn't, but I wanted to do at least one drop there.
Yeah.
All right. Since it's repetitive, I'll spare you me reading it 6 times, but again with the next chorus, I can't stop thinking big. In a world where I feel so small, I can't stop thinking big. I love that line because that absolutely encapsulates the whole. If there's one sentence for the whole song that does it, that's it. He can't help himself. He feels that was the description we had at the start of it, how small he was in all this. But now that he's involved in all this, he couldn't stop thinking big. Now he's on his way. So, coming into his own.
That feels so small. That's what I've been saying for several years is the reason that the Marvel movies and all the superhero movies are so big is because so many people now feel small and feel out of control with, before it was just automation. Now it's taking over everything. Now AI taking over everything, and a lot of other places where you just don't have any control. And I think that feeling small, wanting
question of
getting to live through those heroes and that you can control something and do something big was a reason for that.
Nice.
Yeah. It's kind of like, go ahead.
No, I was going to say take us into the interlude, guys, but no, if you've got more on this, please do.
Just real quick, that humanity hasn't changed, right? Back in the earliest days of the dawn of humanity, you step out the cave, and your best friend Frank just got eaten by a pterodactyl, and there's storms in the sky, and it's a big scary world out there. And so this is how origin myths and creation myths came about in the early development of human civilization, because it gave us, or gave them, a sense of agency, right? A sense of control over a world that was big and scary.
Explanation.
And we still haven't changed much.
Yeah. Like organizing that chaos.
Yeah. We're just doing it with technology now.
I will never not be impressed as to how many Franks lived in the Paleolithic era.
I was going to say that.
Every age has like names,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Then there's Tiffany, and one.
I think Herman was big in the Neolithic era, so whatever. That's what they had going.
Have to see if there's anything in the Code of Hammurabi that talks about baby names.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is going to take us into a musical interlude.
Go on, please.
Yeah. Paul, keep them moving. Paul, keep them moving. Yeah. There's a musical interlude here that I cannot put into words, so it's jazzy. There's my word.
Well, I gotta admit I didn't count the measures, but it's easily 32 measures of interlude. I mean, Geddy's got a fill. Lifeson comes in with basically not really tremolo picking technically, but he's kind of doing that as far as a few measures of just F sharp to G, which interestingly I think is that he didn't use F sharp roots in the song at this point. F sharp appeared in the B power chord because that's the the fifth of B, but the idea that F sharp, he's using that as basically a nice little step to the G that he's mostly tremoloing, if we want to call it that, and then kind of kicking into a regular solo. But at that point, his regular solo is over, that kind of E minor riffing, but he jumps on the B flat power chord. So he's throwing in these in deference to Geddy, curveballs, baseball reference, for himself. Rob, what are you thinking?
Yeah, that chromaticism comes back in again too. So this theme of chromaticism, again, these ascending lines, da 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 da. It's moving upward, and then it just gets completely nutty. The thing I like about this section is the interplay with all of them.
Yeah,
jazz is very much about where are you going, and where do you want to go. So so it's just like past, present, future kind of idea with the interplay musically. So that's the thing I appreciate about this section, and then that whole proggy thing is really. At the forefront. These are the guys. This is what they do. This is how their skills really show forth in this particular interlude section. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it seems like it's. No, sorry, I'm okay. I'll quickly go. That it seemed like since they knew they were offering this up as hey, this is our next album. Hey, we're going to be a little more progressive. And it's sort of like, hey, you remember in YYZ where we were doing this back and forth type of thing? We're going to put this in this song too. This is just the first song. What else is coming? That kind of deal.
I don't remember if it was from the future as it ought to have been from Time Machine, or if it was from an interview he did with Jim Ladd. But Neil had specifically pointed to this interlude when they were writing and recording the song, saying that again, this is anecdotal at best, but when it goes to it does the down and then the up, it's like do 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 that part.
Yeah.
That fill, they kept, I guess Booge was constantly, Nick Vasquez was constantly saying, put a fill in here, now do more, and pushing him. And he was getting angry. And that's how that fill came out of that. And I watched Sterling Patrick Fuentes' drum cover on YouTube of Caravan and watched him go down the toms and then up the toms. I'm like, there it is. So the things we hear. But traveling, keeping the theme.
Yeah, keeping it moving.
Yep.
I didn't count the measures, but I did note the time. That chorus ends at about 3 minutes 22 seconds, and then the interlude, and then the next chorus begins at 4 minutes 46 seconds. So it's like almost a minute and a half of just jamming.
Yeah. Which is where we are at. The chorus again. I can't stop thinking big, repeated multiple times to get that point across. In a world where I feel so small, I can't stop thinking big. And as the music, again in true Rush fashion, it comes to this epic crescendo. Then vocals. I love how the vocals are processed in the studio version of where it's some reverb effect of some kind. With in a world where I feel so small, I can't stop thinking big, and it sounds smaller. So I thought that was a piece of production brilliance there. So, wrapping up the lyrics.
Great stuff.
Thoughts?
The lyrics repeat a lot, so there's not a lot of individual lines, but they say so much and give such a great introduction to Owen Hardy. And I guess to Neil's childhood, too.
Yeah.
And this world that was created, it is worth noting that as Neil was creating it, he also said that each song has its own alchemical symbol. Alchemy plays, for those of you who haven't read the book, alchemy plays a very large role in this world as well. So the symbol for this one is copper for Caravan. The commentary I pulled off rushvault.com. Thank you, folks. Copper relates to beauty. The protagonist of the story wants to leave the farm he's been happy living up to on this point. He's a young man and wants to see the world, so he's blind right now to the beauty, the bucolic setting that surrounded him through his young life. The world lit only by fire, from the lyrics, appears to refer to the flying steamships. If they're anything like the steam-driven locomotive, they're powered by red-hot bricks of coal and belt-scorching vapor clouds. So, and if you're really lost, 12 alchemical symbols, 12 songs, guys.
What time is it there?
Weirdly enough, in military time, it's 21:12.
Yeah, it's funny, those symbols. That idea of the alchemical symbols, the scar on the hand that comes up in the story. I won't say who it is, but that's something that it's like an identifier. So, interesting. Right?
Okay, I think we can put a pin on this one, wrap this up. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Again, if you do like what you've seen, hit that subscribe button. I would bring it back up, but I don't want to make other things disappear. There we go.
Hey.
I made it through without any major technical difficulties, a couple minor ones, but we'll take it. But stay tuned, because more of Clockwork Angels is definitely coming your way. Gentlemen, thank you very, very much.
Well, can I give a shout out to somebody? Can I tell a little story?
Please do.
Yeah. So I went to the grocery today, and as I'm walking toward the store, there's these two young folks that came out, looked like boyfriend and girlfriend. They might have been in high school, maybe recently graduated. They were, that age. And we walked past each other, and then I hear him say, "Great shirt," or something like that. "Cool shirt." And I turned around, I said, "Oh, thanks." And I said, "Are you a fan of the band?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "My dad taught me all about Rush and everything, So next gen. So I pointed out our channel to him and said, "You and your dad need to tune in." So by the time this comes out, if by chance you're watching this episode, say something in the comments to us, and thanks for saying something about my shirt, and like and subscribe.
Yes.
What the heck? It's been a couple months. Let's get self-indulgent. Go Wolves. So that being said, only a couple people are going to know what I mean by that. But thank you very much, gentlemen. And we will see
you.
everybody soon with BU2B.